Hi, my name is Nate Henderson, Chairman and CEO of BILT Incorporated, and I'd like to welcome you today to a conversation with Fred Reichheld, renowned author, New York Times bestseller, management consultant and partner with Bain and Company, and the father of loyalty economics and the Net Promoter System. Fred is about to join the board of directors for BILT Incorporated. And to start off our conversation today, we'd like to start with a simple question. Fred, you are busy, wildly successful, and have accomplished so many things in your life. Why BILT and why now?
Well, it was a partner of mine at Bain who introduced me to Bill Wade, and he put it in the context of Fred. I actually think this might be a tool that could help many of our clients and the companies we work with to solve a gaping need that they all face, which is in this world that is becoming more digital. How do we differentiate ourselves and really create a special, remarkable experience at that welcome point where the customer is going through either opening the package, putting something together, or just having their first use? And so when I saw BILT and its potential, I thought, gee, I think this really is the most powerful and promising solution I've seen to really revolutionize this touch point that heretofore has been handled terribly. You open a box and you find a bunch of paper instructions, most of which are in French or German or Italian. They're not your language. You find English, and it's obviously been written by someone who doesn't have English as their native language, and it's a horrible experience. And then I saw what BILT could do. It just made it delightful, and it was good enough that I wanted to talk to my wife and my friends and my family about it. And that's my standard of excellence. If something is so good that you just have to tell everyone else about it, you have a winner. And I think that's probably why BILT, why now for me.
Oh, thank you. Well said. And I think I would kind of take a next step with it is when we founded BILT Incorporated in the very, very early days, as we were kind of working with this concept of, well, you've got these 3D interactive instructions and it certainly is a better experience. But for me as a founder, all of Fred's research around loyalty economics and the Net Promoter System was really what helped me translate and understand why it was of value. And as we did those initial tests, we realized that, yes, that customer experience, it has an impact. And it has an impact because you're helping to create loyal customers by providing a great experience so that as they walk away, just like you did, Fred, you're telling other people about it. And really, at the end of the day, our goal and the elevator pitch that we do at BILT Incorporated is we're trying to create promoters of the brands that we serve. And you'll see behind me, I have some of these great, amazing brands here. This is just a small sampling of them. But really, from the very beginning of the founding of our business, your research helped kind of create that DNA and answer the questions of why, and then also helped us architect the structure of the company, even the organization, and how we support brands. We want to put them at the forefront of what we do, and we now have that NPS level data at the SKU allows us to just get into the nitty-gritty detail with businesses to really accelerate the positive things that they do.
Yeah, I think there are lots of additional pieces of value that BILT will be able to deliver to its brand customers, not just specific SKU feedback at the time of assembly and first use, but in the future, I envision that can be connected to that same customer and that purchase record through time. So you'll be able to open up opportunities to learn from that same customer at the 6-month, 12-month, and so forth. And in my experience, consumer durables have had a very difficult time getting a direct connection to customers or a subset of customers, let's say a panel who really are their core customers, and to have an ongoing dialogue database that doesn't re-ask the customer all of those boring questions that you should already know the answer to if you actually had a relationship with them. Now, with the BILT tool, I think that conversation can continue in a very, very productive way.
Excellent point. Excellent point. So you mentioned within the consumer durable goods industry. Why don't we take a second, Fred, and just talk a little bit more about that? When we first started, there were a few companies within the consumer durable space that had really started to consume this concept of loyalty economics and the net promoter system. Now, after 5, almost 6 years, we start to see the majority of them are moving in that direction. You start to see the big retailers are now starting to emphasize these concepts in a way that they never had before. Now, we can say part of that is the whole customer experience economy that we're coming into. But Fred, why do you think it is becoming so important for these brands, and why are they now gravitating, just like the majority of the Fortune 500 are now using the Net Promoter System? Why is that happening now?
I think there are a lot of reasons. You know, Fortune magazine did a big feature article on Net Promoter and why it was taking over the world the way it has. For me, this started over 20 years ago. I created Net Promoter almost 2 decades ago, and have been hammering away at demonstrating that companies who enrich the lives of their customers are the ones that actually grow and prosper and become great places to work and deliver great returns to investors. And Bain and Company got on that bandwagon very early. Others have slowly, but it's been a 20-year journey to where Fortune concluded that over 2/3 of the world's large companies now use Net Promoter as the framework for thinking. And what that means is it's not just they don't just measure Net Promoter Score. They see that success is defined by customers. And if you think about the impact you've had with your own individual life or with a corporation, you can think about it of all the lives I've touched, how many are enriched, how many are diminished. And that's what Net Promoter measures. And you know, promoters, you've enriched a life. Detractors, you've diminished a life. So as you strive toward building a Net Promoter results, you're actually taking on a bigger challenge and a more important one than just making a buck. You're actually trying to make the world a better place in a sustainable, economically rational way. And you know, why has it happened? I think more people have just experimented with it. We made it an open source system, so it could be adjusted and tuned up to work more effectively in different use cases in different industries. But overall, I think companies are coming to recognize that the only way to prosper, the only way to attract good employees is by putting them in a position where they can enrich the lives they touch. And Net Promoter just makes that a measurable, manageable process.
And I would tell all of BILT's current customers and prospectives, you need to know that as the chairman and CEO of this company, I try to manage our business in that same way. We are continually asking ourselves the question, are we enriching your lives as our customers? We can't do everything. We don't do everything. But at the things that we do, we want to be the very, very best in the world at enriching you in that specific way. And we are committed to making that happen, of course, with Fred on board. I think that that gives us a rocket booster, as sometimes he says, to getting there. Let me pose one last question to you, Fred. As our customers listen to this conversation and look forward to more engagement with you, what advice would you give them now that they're starting to see all of this incredible data that's coming as a result of this great experience? Do you have any quick advice that you would give them to help prepare them for the harvesting that we'll be doing in the future to help them in a greater degree?
Over the years, we have built a club of what I consider some of the best companies in the world. It's called the NPS Loyalty Forum. It includes not just Bain, which sponsors it, but the companies that have attended have included Apple and Lego and Peloton. Great, you know, just the world's best companies. And we have people come speak to us. So the guy that founded the Ritz, the Four Seasons, these great brands, it's amazing how consistently their message has been to us that it's this initial opening experience you have with a brand that sets the stage, that really the die is cast. And that's why these top hotel hospitality chains will not just make sure that the lobby is beautiful and designed to be intuitive and you know what you're doing and which line to stand in and where the elevators are, because they want to make sure you feel like you belong, but they go all the way out to the front signage. It's does does this feel like a community that welcomes you and you want to be a part of? And that's really where you're touching the customer with BILT. So instead of having a very expensive investment in a front lobby in a hotel, you have a tiny investment in an app that lets people feel welcome. And then I think the very cool extra that I didn't understand initially is you're going to be able to help keep track of when you're wowing those customers and when you're disappointing them, which opens up this possibility for ongoing learning and improvement. And that, I think, is why Net Promoter has actually become the dominant framework. It helps people consistently learn through a life cycle of a customer what they're doing great and what's remarkable, what's earning tens, so that I can do more of that. And where are we failing? What parts of the experience, what episodes are we getting the zeros, the ones, and the twos, so that we can probe for the root cause and fix that. And with an ongoing stream of data, with Net Promoter style data, you get to test out those innovations to see which ones are working and which ones aren't. So that is how I see BILT fitting into this broader philosophy I've tried to promote about enriching customer lives as being the only way to run a successful business long term.
Excellent. And I would add to that, to our customers and others, the more we all jointly do this, focus on enriching the lives of others, we're going to make the world a better place. And that sounds a little bit cliche, but we know that has happened with so many of these other brands. So there's tons of evidence out there that we all have the ability to enrich the lives of other people in a remarkable way. And it's not just you all as our customers, but our employees. And we hope that we're of some help to you, our customers, in improving the way you interact with your employees and others, and that we jointly rise together.
It is a great philosophy, but like legitimate critics who say, well, Fred, you got to have some practical solutions. And I encounter companies today that I think very highly of. I helped my son put together an IKEA table that he had bought for his dorm room. And I've bought the high-end play sets for our kids, and way back when, a Weber grill. And in those days, the assembly experience was horrible. I mean, that almost ruined our 40-year marriage, Karen and I. It tested it. And now you think, what would be an act of kindness? Well, shouldn't they have 3D interactive animated instructions that actually make it a little bit fun? And shouldn't you have a timestamp from the app so that you can see which step is taking too long, and therefore you can probe and figure out what's the confusion, what's going wrong here. So this notion of delivering a very cool experience that is going to learn how to get better and better and better with feedback through time, that's a wonderful thing.
That is an excellent point, is that whole idea of continuous learning and kind of building that into the overall offering and experience with it. And that's why, getting that feedback and the analytics that we grab about average time per step, these things are the building blocks to just build a flywheel that just gets faster and faster and faster, and helping you our brands get better and better at what you do and further enriching the lives of others. So yeah, excellent point, Fred. Any last comments you'd like to make, Fred?
Yeah, in this, as we're recording this, it's the COVID crisis. And one of the things I did for myself was I bought a new electric piano. It's a real nice model that Yamaha has made called the Clavinova. It's a brilliant, brilliant device. And I was excited. It has all the features that I cared about, but it shows up flat packed in a box, as you'd expect in this world where more and more things are being ordered online and they show up at your door. And the assembly experience was straight out of hell. It was horrible. It turns out that the instruction booklet had the wrong model number on. So I was trying to assemble the wrong model, which it's hard to do. I had 3 or 4 calls to the dealer. I was getting desperate. I thought, what a horrible mistake I've made spending thousands of dollars on this thing. The dealer is getting frustrated. And there's no excuse. It could have all been eliminated if they just had a BILT solution on an app that automatically picks the correct model. You take a picture of the QR code, and you don't mess around with with German and Japanese. It goes right to English and right to your model. And it would have been so simple. And it's almost, I felt like now that I know BILT exists, it's a little bit thoughtless and rude of a brand to not offer that common courtesy. It's almost like I'm writing a chapter in my next book on Net Promoter and the Net Promoter 3.0, the next generation. And I make the case about callbacks from when you call into, I called Southwest Airlines 2 or 3 years ago, but it was a snowstorm disaster. I live around the Boston area, canceled flights, really trying to juggle things at the holiday season. And Southwest, instead of having me wait online for, an hour or more to get this fixed, they had a little computer voice that came on and said, listen, we can keep your spot in line. Just give us your name and we'll call you back when there's an agent available. And I thought, wow, that is incredible. And it was a real innovation. Now, 3 years later, I get irritated if anybody makes me stay on the phone lines for more than 3 or 4 minutes, because I know there is a cheap digital solution, a callback, that they weren't willing to take the time and effort to make available to me. So, today I think BILT and this kind of a solution is a wow. I think before too long, you're going to have irritated customers who see this as a rude act of indifference to the customer if they don't have that kind of solution available.
Very, very good point. Let me add one other thing to that. You mentioned in the world of COVID-19 here with it. Well, for some future amount of time, we're going to also have to practice some social distancing. There's been a rise in the last 4 to 5 years of kind of the white glove service of third parties coming and taking care of that, in large part because brands and retailers realized, as you said, it's a bad experience.
Yeah.
But it's juxtaposed against the fact that the more we get to 24-hour delivery, 48-hour delivery, items have to fit within a certain shipping size. And that means that items are going to become more flat packed, less assembled, et cetera. And so with the insatiable desire we have for quicker delivery of things, it means the likelihood of assembly is going to increase even greater. As these brands started to see this happening, the whole white glove service started to come in for somebody to come in and actually take care of it. Well, even though BILT is as much for a professional user as it is for a consumer, we want to make all of them very successful in whatever they do. But certainly right now in the year 2020 that we're facing this need for social distancing at a minimum, you're not likely to have someone coming into your home, or it's less likely. And when there is, you're not going to have 2 people. You may only have 1. And so the whole concept of needing to support people by themselves, where they're at, when they need it, is even greater. Would you agree?
I have my experience with white glove service is it is almost never quite up to the brand's hope. It's certainly better than having to do it yourself, but for premium brands, it's very unusual for an independent third-party white glove service to actually be a true representative of that brand. And sometimes you're always going to need white glove. When they put a big TV on my wall, I need strong young guys to do the lifting and adjusting. So, BILT helping those people do it more efficiently and more effectively, that's good. But I think the amazing thing is most of what is done white glove now, if you were thoughtful about designing the packaging and the instructions, people can do it themselves. And yeah, you don't want an extra person in your house with COVID, but I think for the most part, if people knew it was easy to do and you could deliver on that, they'd much rather have it something that they handle on their own time, and that is what I'm discovering. I'll go back to the Yamaha piano. If I had BILT with that, it would have been a dream. It really was simple. You just had to know a couple of little pointers that made it a simple thing as opposed to me trying to put it together upside down. So I think the need for white glove will diminish. It's going to set a higher standard on people really what they expect from white glove, and people using BILT are going to feel better than they did with the white glove that exists today.
I wonder as well what will happen in the future as you said, as the bar is raised for both consumers as well as professionals alike, saying, hey, there's a better experience out here. Does that start to impact buying decisions, right? Your add to cart rate online, does that start to improve? Or when you have professionals involved, do they begin looking at things and saying, hey, this is a product that I can maintain a lot more efficiently, a lot faster, because I see that it uses BILT for its instruction experience.
I think in some ways, BILT reminds me of the early days of NPS itself. We'd have all these arguments from competing consulting firms and academics who, they'd write articles and white papers that prove that NPS is horrible, it can't work. And I said, it's just cheap, it's open source, just try it. And if it works, do it. And the same thing with BILT. Say, it's very inexpensive. Just try it on one or two of your SKUs and then test, see what happens with those customers, see how much more delighted they are. And actually check how many hours of customer callbacks there are to the retailer or to customer service. And yes, check the add to cart rate for those few SKUs you happen to have tested it. This doesn't have to be a complicated decision. It's just, it's inexpensive. Try it and then see what all the benefits are and quantify them. And then you'll know how big an opportunity this really represents.
Fred, I couldn't have said it any better myself. I reiterate that invitation, as hundreds of brands have already accepted it and upgraded their customer experience to BILT Intelligent Instructions. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure.